every Friday, thanks to our friends at Local Environmental Services, we get a chance to basically hand you the mic, to open up the floor, so to speak, for you to blow off some steam. For you to maybe let off a little pressure, for you to say what needs to be said. It's a tradition we call Trash Talk. Oh, yeah! And this one's from Brad, who wrote in after my conversation with Tristan Hopper about Jordan Peterson and Pierre Poilievre and Joe Rogan and the others. And Brad wrote in commenting on a comment that one of you made about incels and how Jordan Peterson's fans were incels. So Brad writes into me and he says this, and I wrote back to Brad and I said in one sentence, Brad, not every one of Jordan Peterson's fans is an incel, but it seems like every incel is a fan of Jordan Peterson. And here's what he wrote back. He says, Jesperson, I guess you hang out with an awful lot of incels, but I've never met one. Tristan Hopper spoke for 20 minutes about the absence of, nay, the disallowance of conservative viewpoints in the mainstream media as an explanation for Jordan Peterson's outsized popularity, and your response was to agree with the listener's comment that it's incels that like Peterson. I'm laughing my ass off. 7 million incels, I guess, are following him on YouTube. If that level of perspective is typical of your show, then it's clearly childish pablum. Goodbye, bud. Goodbye, Brad. This one from Kathy, who says, Real Talk team, great shows and guests this week. All that talk about Alberta's energy future really reminded me about an interview that I heard recently about natural gas leaks. She said, remember that one you did? She says this one, and this is our conversation with Jeff Galis that I had. You can check it out on our YouTube. This is Alberta's methane problem. She says you guys were talking about that new drone, that like satellite technology that can accurately pinpoint methane leaks across Alberta, and he was talking about how repairing leaks would be one of the easiest endeavors that could benefit the environment, our health, our wallets, our producers. Does that ring any bells, says Kathy? Politicians have been aware of this issue for many, many years. Why the fuck is this not common knowledge? Why? Because of politics, she says. Nobody wants to own up to it, and nobody wants to take any heat for letting this go on so long. Kathy wonders, when are we going to smarten up and not make everything so political? Isn't that what the Ministry of Red Tape Reduction is supposed to be doing? Pitter patter, Alberta. Let's get at her. That from Kathy. I love it. By the way, that Jeff Galis interview was back on July 20th. It's Alberta's methane problem. And this one from Michael. Hey, Johnny, the Elks won. The Elks won.
Holy, can you believe it?
They're 1-9. Now they just got to win at home to break that home losing streak. Michael says all the talk about the CFL on the show this week compelled me to write in. First off, there's a lot of logistical issues. You guys are talking about having the Grey Cup happen on Canadian Thanksgiving, besides what you and Johnny talked about, like Stanley Cup playoffs going on, the biggest hurdle. Another issue is when college football wraps up in the States, then there's the NFL draft, and the CFL picks the scraps off the undrafted players, so you'd be limiting the player choice pool significantly. Another huge issue is that the Grey Cup is steeped in tradition, so moving up the game from time in November to early October, Jesperson, it's sacrilegious, says Michael. I think an immediate improvement, though, would be making it a purely one-division league. The top 6 teams qualify for playoffs. If 5 of them happen to be from the West, too bad, so sad for Eastern football fans. Tell your ownership to improve. Another improvement, have local media give the CFL more airtime and sports coverage. It can be like day 20 of NHL free agency, and some third-line guy's going to sign on the worst team, and sports talk radio in particular would talk about that for like the first 30 minutes of their show. The dog days of summer with games going on like 60 or 80 in baseball? Come on. The CFL's kicking off its season. I'm 44, says Michael. I've gone to 14 Grey Cups. Nice. 12 of them consecutively before COVID. Cool. He says it's the party of the year regardless of where it's played at. I agree with you there, Mike. He says the league's doing all right, but there are some simple steps I could see immediately improving awareness of the CFL. And even though his subject line said trash talk in all caps, Michael signs off, thank you for your time. The most engaged and polite talk audience in Canada is you, Real Talkers, and Trash Talk is proudly presented by Local Environmental Services. You can check them out online at localenvironmental.ca. Coming up on Monday's show, Take Back Alberta founder David Parker joins me for a long-anticipated interview. Then Charles Adler. Coming up later in the week, we're going to talk to Claire Hanna. What's it been like being a woman working in sports broadcasting? Plus, a lot of other stuff coming up. We'll see how the news develops. Make it a safe weekend, friends, and we'll talk to you Monday.